Greece's anti-austerity government is presenting its first concrete proposals for an alternative debt plan at an emergency meeting of eurozone finance ministers in Brussels. The government wants to overhaul 30% of its bailout obligations, replacing them with a 10-point plan of reforms. But EU ministers have warned that Greece must abide by existing terms. The EU-IMF bailout for the debt-laden country expires on February 28 and Greece does not want it extended. Instead, the new Athens government is asking for a bridge agreement that will enable it to stay afloat until it can agree a new 4-year reform plan with its EU creditors. Thousands of left-wing demonstrators have rallied in Athens in support of their government's proposition. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras' government won a confidence vote on Tuesday, with the support of 162 deputies in the 300-seat parliament. The Athens Stock Exchange then fell by 4% ahead of the emergency Eurogroup meeting, which will see Finance Minister Yanis Varoufakis unveil the controversial debt proposals. The Syriza-led government says the conditions of the Euro 240 BN, Pound 182 BN, Dollar 272 BN, bailout, sweeping spending cuts and public sector job losses, have impoverished Greece. It rejects the Troika team, the EU, International Monetary Fund, IMF, and European Central Bank, ECB, overseeing the bailout's implementation. High stakes. The government's proposal for overhauling its bailout comes in 4 parts, according to a finance ministry source widely quoted in Greek media. Under the first part, Greece would cooperate on 70% of its bailout conditions but wants to scrap 30%, replacing it with 10 new reforms to be agreed with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. It is unclear what these would be. At a joint press conference on Wednesday, OECD head Angel Gurria told Mr. Tsipras that his organization would work with Greece in getting growth back not only on the books but also, to the Greek citizens. The government's plan also includes bond swaps and a proposal to reduce the primary budget surplus target for this year to 1.49% of GDP, rather than the 3%. However, a swift deal with the EU is considered unlikely. Most finance ministers, including Germany's Wolfgang Schäuble, are insisting that Greece must not renege on its bailout conditions. Speaking ahead of the Eurogroup meeting, its president, Jeroen Dijsselbloem, said he did not expect a deal with Greece on Wednesday but that the group would listen to Greece's ideas. Meanwhile, the head of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, praised Greek officials as competent, but warned that reaching an agreement would take time. The finance ministers will report to EU leaders who will take up the issue at their first summit with Mr. Tsipras on Thursday. Clashing. On the eve of the meeting, Finance Minister Yanis Varoufakis did not rule out clashing with his Eurozone counterparts, saying, "If you are not willing to even contemplate a rift, then you are not negotiating." The stakes of the talks are high because of fears that a Greek debt default could push it out of the euro, triggering turmoil in the EU. Greece's debt currently stands at more than Euro 320 BN, Pound 237 BN, about 174% of its economic output, GDP. Last month's election win by radical left-wing party Syriza has led to suggestions that Greece could forge closer ties with Russia, although Greek officials have downplayed the idea. After meeting his Greek counterpart Nikolaos Kotzias on Wednesday, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Moscow would consider a request for financial aid from Athens if it came, despite Russia's own financial difficulties caused by Western sanctions over the crisis in Ukraine. The Greek Defense Minister, Panos Kominas, previously said Greece might seek funding from Russia, China, or the US if it failed to reach a new debt agreement with the eurozone.